also to use that information and to speculate as to what might happen in the future and what could have happened in the past. That's got to be the height of being a historian. And so in this book, it talks about all kinds of conquests and wars, and it talks about each of them as if the reverse happened. So, for example, Victor Davis Hanson has a chapter in here. The title is called No Glory That Was Greece, and the chapter is about the Persians' win at Salamis 480 BC. Well, you may know that they did not win, but what if they did win? What if Persia, and what's called the Greco-Persian Wars, what if the Persians ran over Greece? Now, they did once, but what if they conquered them and established themselves? What if they annexed them, and now Greece is Persia? And then they went up into Macedonia and took them out. They already, Thrace they often owned already, but what if they had owned Macedonia and then down into Lower Greece, and that was it? And they just stayed there, just hung out, just kept it, captured it, and took out Greece's stuff. Then Alexander the Great probably never would have rose, although Alexander the Great, I recently learned that Alexander the Great wasn't quite a Greek. He was actually from Macedonia, and that's where his father was a king. And that's also where Aristotle came from, and Aristotle taught Alexander the Great. So those are Macedonians, which is a little bit different than Greeks, which are lower down south from Macedonia. So what would have happened if Persia took over ancient Greece? Because we like to say that the ancient Greek philosophers and ancient Greek wisdom and philosophy is the basis of Western culture. What if they were run over by Persia? Because the Middle East philosophy, that isn't the basis of Western culture. So what if they ran over Greece? Well, we'd have a different world, would we not? Well, what would you speculate on that? So Victor Davis Hanson does. And there's all kinds of other chapters in here too about what might have happened. Like, what if the Dark Ages were not dark? And it says here, the Dark Ages made lighter. So what could have happened? So maybe Rome would have stuck around? I don't know what that chapter is going to be about. There's all kinds of really interesting stuff in here. Spanish Armada wins. What would have happened if they won instead of getting wiped out? Because when the Spanish Armada fought the British, they lost all their navy, and that rose. I think that led to Britain's rise over Spain. So what if Spain kept their hegemony there? What would have happened? So this should be really good. The Soviet invasion of Japan. What if the Russians took out Japan? And I imagine there's something in here. There's something in here about Vietnam. I wonder if there's anything in here about like Germany. Germany won. If Germany took Britain, it's got to be something in here about Germany taking over Britain. Has to be. That's got to be. There's Napoleon wins at Waterloo. You may know that he lost at Waterloo. That was his last battle, I think. So what happened if he had won at Waterloo and kept going? So this should be just fantastic. This will be something that, this is probably what I'll do is, as I'm reading through history, I will then pick this book up and say, okay, so I just got through the Greco-Persian Wars. Tell me what might have happened if the Persians had won out. So that should be something I kind of come back to as I go through history. So that should be really interesting. Okay. So another kind of general book. This is kind of a strange book. It's called We Are Not the First. This is by Andrew Tomas, without an H. And I'll give you kind of the premise of the book here. He basically goes through all of history from the Aztecs to, I don't know what, I guess sort of modern times. And certainly he goes through Greece and all that. And he shows that a lot of the ideas that we use now, and even some technology that we have now, were actually found in ancient civilizations. He shows a few pictures, for example, of a Greek, let me see if I can find it, a Greek, here it was, fragments of an ancient Greek mechanical device found in the sea. And it's kind of neat. It looks like some gears and stuff. It kind of reminds me of Skyrim and Morrowind and what was the other one? Oblivion, where you've got that Draymore or something, the dwarves, that dwarven kind of ancient civilization that you kind of go into various dungeons and find this ancient technology, this superior ancient technology. It's kind of like that. So this book actually goes through a lot of stuff that's been found. He even says here atomic reactors. That can't be right. It says from temples and forums to atomic reactors. I don't know what that's about. But anyways, the basic premise of the book is that, look, a lot of this stuff actually was had in the ancient Greece. I've even heard that the ancient Greeks had all the principles to make a steam engine, but they never got around to making it. So that'd be interesting to kind of see, well, people had these ideas but never implemented them. Why not? So that should be interesting. Okay, continuing in order here. Here's just a book I found on the Italian Renaissance. It says the Italian Renaissance Reader. It's got here Petrarch, Da Vinci, and some other people, Machiavelli. I thought this might be interesting. I don't really have a lot of stuff on those topics on the Italian Renaissance, so if I'd have one book on it, then that would be enough. Okay, World War II. I've got a few more here. The Nuremberg Diary. So you may know the Nuremberg Trials. This was about, okay, Germany lost. Now we're going to process you all for war crime, right? So, and I've read a little bit of this, and I don't remember very much, but I remember talking about Robert Hess, and Robert Hess having a bad memory, and I forget now. There's a speculation about, is he just suppressing it, and he's just kind of trying to get away with what he did, or is he actually just psychologically shell-shocked and just can't believe what the Reich had done, kind of thing, right? So this is going through Goebbels, Goering, and Hess, and other people, and there's actually a list of all the people that, at least not all the people, but some of the people that were involved in the Nuremberg trials. Like I mentioned, like a foreign minister and a chief of the Luftwaffe, which was the Air Force, German Air Force, chief Nazi philosopher, that's Alfred Rosenberg, all these kinds of people that are involved in, it says reactions to the indictment. So, and there's all these various comments from these people. Minister of the Interior, all these different people. Like Hitler's lawyer, Hans Frank, later Governor General of Poland when it was occupied. So that should be interesting, kind of the dirty laundry now aired of what all happened. Here is The Destruction of Dresden. Now, the author is the most significant. This is by David Irving. David Irving is a controversial writer on World War II, and he's not a historian, he's an outsider, but yet he wrote a lot of books on World War II. And he was the one who was banned in various places because he was considered a, quote, Holocaust denier. But he wasn't a Holocaust denier, as far as I know. He just had a different take, a different information about what actually went down. Now, why is that so bad? What happened to free inquiry? Why do we have to have, like, sealed truths, sealed histories that must be kept away from scrutiny? That seems like nonsense to me, but various countries ban Holocaust denial, which I think is stupid. I guess what I think, it just makes me suspicious. Why is it banned from inquiry? Is there some kind of secret that people don't want to know, or maybe it was otherwise, or I don't know. Like it just makes me suspicious. I don't know why you'd have to ban inquiry into something. But David Irving didn't, I guess, have the textbook 9/11 Commission kind of official report, right? He wasn't following the official history. This sounds like Stalinist kind of history, which is so ridiculous. But he wasn't following the party lines, so he gets in trouble, and he was. I think he might have been arrested in some country, or they were looking for him. Or I don't know. I think maybe in Austria or something like that. So he had to flee various places. And it reminds me of Voltaire. And certainly had to flee a lot of places too because of people didn't like what he had to say. So, anyways, the destruction of Dresden, of course, was actually the Allies bombing a city in Germany called Dresden, and they bombed civilian targets. And a lot of people think that the destruction of Dresden was a war crime committed by the Allies, committed by Britain, I don't know if the United States did that too, but committed by the Allies, whoever they were, Britain, Canada, United States. So, we're the victors, right? The Allies are the victors. We probably don't like the criticism, but the other side of this is that the David Irving author is a disputed author. So that's a good find. And the last one in history is Winston Churchill, The Gathering Storm. So you may know that Winston Churchill, of course, was the leader of Britain at the time. Did you know that just shortly after the war, the British people voted him out, and then he got back in later? It seems so thankless. I cannot believe that. The guy who had a speech that said, we will fight them on the beaches, we will fight them, blah, 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 wherever they are. That guy gets, as soon as the war's over, gets kicked out in favor of a Labour government. I just think that's ridiculous. But it's disgraceful of the British people to do that. So Winston Churchill, he wrote a history, not only of Britain, actually, by the way, but also on World War II, and he was one of the first ones to get a World War II history published. He rushed to get his books out first before the Russians published their version, right? Of course, the Germans probably couldn't publish much after being deposed and taken over. So Churchill got his book out first. And I think it's 6 volumes, and I do have, this is volume 1, and I have volume 4, I think, or it's either 4 or 6. So slowly I'll find them, but there's no big rush. But I definitely should get 1. So I've got 1, found it at a used bookstore. So that'll be another very comprehensive take on World War II. Okay, those are the new books for history. Next will be philosophy.